bring this meeting to order. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Get my pen. All right. First piece of order, appointments. Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight, we have Chief Kent and Deputy Chief Brown here for some appointments. As is customary, we have a ton of men and women from the department here to show their support for the new officer. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you guys for all you do in serving the residents every day on a daily basis, and thank you also for being here. I think the board's going to be very pleased as we have another outstanding candidate for the department. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Chief Kent and Chief Brown to present the candidate to you.
Thank you.
This is Brittany Zaccanini. She's from Wilmington, Mass. The daughter of Mark and Heather Zaccanini, also from Wilmington. She's a 2013 graduate of Wilmington High School and a 2017 graduate of the University of New Hampshire, where she had a double major in justice and psychology and a minor in forensics. While on campus at UNH, she was involved in extracurricular programs that emphasize social justice and philanthropy. During her college years, she was employed in the hospitality industry, working in Hampton, New Hampshire as a mixologist. Brittany served an internship with the Tewksbury PD in 2016 and was a special police officer with the Methuen Police Department. She's a recent graduate as a self-sponsored candidate of the Northern Essex Community College Methuen Police Academy, where, upon graduation, she was recognized with the Defensive Tactics Award for the entire class. I would request that Brittany be appointed a full-time police officer in the town of Burlington.
With the chief's recommendation, I hereby appoint Brittany Zaccanini to the position of full-time police officer in the Burlington Police Department and request that the Board of Selectmen waive the standard 15-day waiting period.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Bob, second by Jim. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Let's get out of the way, guys.
I see, Brittany, you have a big family there. Bring them all up when you want to do it.
Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Brittany Zaccanini,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
all
all the duties incumbent upon me
the duties incumbent upon me
as a Burlington police officer
as a Burlington police officer
in accordance to the bylaws of the town
in accordance with the bylaws of the town
and the laws of the Commonwealth.
and the laws of the Commonwealth.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You get the two specials? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next up, we have a couple of appointments for special.
Could we just
police
hold up for 1 second? But I see them all starting to walk out of the room here for a second. Guys, before you leave, every time we bring in a new police officer to this town, this group is amazing. Between the brass and the, what are you guys called anyway? Oh, patrol officers? We used to call you cops. I don't know what it is anymore. But between those two, it's absolutely incredible, the showing that you guys put out every single time. I just want to say thank you, and thank you for what you do for this town. I'm sorry, Paul. I didn't mean to
problem.
interrupt you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next up, we have a couple of appointments for special police officer. The first up is Sergeant Mike DeBy, who's retiring from the department. I've always enjoyed working with Sergeant DeBy over the years. He's always smiling and always professional. So now I'll turn it over to the chief.
Yeah, Mike couldn't make it tonight, but I would request he be appointed special police officer effective May 2nd. He's retiring May 1st. I would reiterate what Paul was saying. It was a pleasure to work with Mike in his 30-plus years. He always had a smile on his face, and he was a low-key supervisor, but he always knew everything that was going on in the shift, and I was always very impressed with the way he ran a shift. And I think it would be an asset to us as a specialist, particularly during our busy season.
And with the chief's recommendation, I hereby appoint Michael DeBy to the position of Special Police Officer in the Burlington Police Department and request that the Board of Selectmen waive the standard 15-day waiting period.
So moved.
Second.
Same as last time. Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Chairman, is John Cronin, who has been a Burlington resident for over 30 years and recently retired with 33 years with the Waltham Police Department. And I don't know if Chief Kent has anything additional to add.
Yeah, I met with Mr. Cronin last week. As Paul said, he's been a resident for over 30 years. I was very impressed with his career at the Waltham PD. I checked with his supervisors there and the boots on the ground. All spoke extremely highly of him. And again, I think he'll be an asset to us, particularly during our busy season as a special police officer.
Thank you, Chief. And with the chief's recommendation, I hereby appoint John E. Cronin to the position of Special Police Officer in the Burlington Police Department and request that the Board of Selectmen waive the standard 15-day waiting period.
So moved.
Second.
Once again, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, chief. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Take a minute to clear the room.
Yep.
Michelle from Leahy's here. Michelle from Leahy's.
Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest families I've seen so far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great support.
What's that?
Great support.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, he did empty out the room.
Make it work now.
Okay, now the room's clear. We'll move right along to 082 update of Leahy Clinic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of months ago, before he retired, I asked John Petrin if he would introduce me to his contacts down at Leahy Clinic. Scott Hartman and Michelle Snyder were kind enough to set up a meeting for us with Dr. Longworth. Dr. Longworth was named the CEO of Leahy Hospital this past September. There's been a lot of discussion in the newspapers lately about the big merger between Leahy and Beth Israel, and that has been concerning to us at the town, as Leahy has always been a cooperative, has had a long and cooperative partnership with the hospital and the town, and we wanted to ensure that we would be able to continue that mutually beneficial relationship. We had a great conversation when we met about the merger, and I felt it would be great if Dr. Longworth could come and introduce himself to the board and fill in the community at large on the merger and all the great things that are going on at Leahy. And with that, I would just like to turn it over to our friends from Leahy.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's a real honor to be here, Mr. Chairman and honored members of the Board of Selectmen. This is my first visit in front of you. I gather I have 15 minutes. I will respect that time unless you invite additional time.
Well, Scott gets 30.
Take it away.
Thank you.
So I do have some remarks, but, you know, relationships are everything. And I think it's important you know who I am and know a little bit about my background. I'm an infectious disease physician by training and a general internist. I've practiced medicine my entire professional career, even as a senior administrator, and I still see patients. It's my core skill. I came here 4 years ago from the Cleveland Clinic, where I served over 21 years on 2 separate stints, first as the chairman of the Department of Infectious Disease, a role that I had for a decade. And then I left and was chair of medicine at the Bay State System out west in Springfield, where I learned all about population health and caring for indigent people, because Springfield had 22% uninsured when I was the chair of medicine there. And I was there for 8.5 years and then went back to the Cleveland Clinic as chair of medicine, and was in that role for 5 years, and was also tasked by that organization with thinking about how to take care of large populations of patients in an era where we were moving from fee-for-service to value-based care, where it was all about taking care of communities and ensuring great outcomes. And so I did that and came back east 4.5 years ago for personal reasons, family reasons. I have kids in the Northeast and grandkids in the Northeast, and came to Leahy as the chair of the physician network, and then 2 years ago became chief medical officer, and then a little over a year ago the interim CEO, and then CEO back at the beginning of September. So that is my background in a nutshell. I believe in the clinic model of care, which Leahy exemplifies, also exemplified by Cleveland, Mayo, Oxnard, Geisinger, and a number of others. And I believe it because it's all about patient-centeredness and delivering high-quality, safe care in a way that is empathic and cares for individual patients and also populations of patients in a way where specialists and primary care physicians work together. That's the right model of care in this day and age, and it's a model of care to which I am deeply committed and look forward to perpetuating here as long as I am in this role. So that's me in a nutshell. Those are my values, and that is what has brought me to actually a very privileged role late in my career to help nourish, foster, secure, and facilitate that model of care as we enter into a new merger so that Frank Leahy's legacy is not lost, but rather flourishes. So with that as preamble, let me just talk a little bit about Leahy and the merger. Leahy here at LHMC continues to grow and thrive. We have nearly 600 employed physicians. Here on the main campus, we see 3,000 patients a day. We have nearly 25,000 discharges on an annual basis. Our hospital is packed. Our occupancy bumps up against 100% each and every day, and we struggle to improve efficiency, to maximize throughput so that we can care for the greater community at large. We are in the midst of a financial turnaround, as many of you probably have heard. In 2017, at LHMC, we lost $47 million. Last year, we were near break even, and this year, we will be profitable. And in the first 6 months, we are $8.5 million profitable. And so with that run rate, we'll be significantly profitable, although we hope to do even better than the current run rate. We have made a number of investments in Leahy. People, over the last 18 months, we have hired 165 physicians in primary care and in specialty care, because the history and our future of this place are all about attracting the top talent from across the country so that we can continue to deliver cutting-edge care, and that is our commitment moving forward. We also have invested in fixed infrastructure, a new emergency room, a new transplant center that we opened several months ago that is a state-of-the-art facility for our transplant program. A new ambulatory facility at 67 South Bedford that houses our primary care practice here on the main campus, as well as dermatology, and will subsequently house some additional specialties that we are in the process of building out. We are redesigning a number of our operating rooms. We're building a new 12-bed endoscopy unit. We plan to begin construction on a neurointensive care unit at the end of September. So we are committed to the organization and to the community that we serve. With regard to Beth Israel Leahy Health, I also serve as a member of Kevin Tabb's senior leadership team, and so am at the table to give voice to Leahy downtown in the new system. Kevin Tabb has reassured me, and I do believe him, that he values the clinic model and everything that Leahy brings to the table and will not deconstruct it. In fact, will nurture and support it. We enter this relationship as equal partners in the merger, a 5-hospital merger, or a 5-system merger that brings together not only the BI and us, but also Mount Auburn, New England Baptist, and Anna Jakes. And the governance model for the new board consists of a board chair who was the former Leahy Health System board chair, who is completely wedded and committed to the clinic model and to Leahy. Kevin Tabb, the former BID CEO, is the new CEO. And the board is comprised of 6 members from Leahy, 6 members from BIDMC, 6 community members, 2 members from Mount Auburn, 1 from New England Baptist. I may be a member or 2 short, but the point is neither the BI nor us has a voting majority in the new system. And so frankly, from the standpoint of governance, it's a brilliant governance model because it's going to force us to work together as a new system coming through the door. I want to reiterate the fact that we will remain highly committed to the Burlington community. We do not believe that there will be significant outmigration of the care to other parts of the system, although there may be in selected areas where together we leverage our collective strengths and build programs of excellence at the respective institutions. We also will maintain our current commitment to the Burlington community, where over time we have supported the seniors program, a number of community events, the high school scholarship program, nutrition services, healthcare screening, and several others, Scott, which I may be missing.
You want to chime in any of the others?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Dr. Longworth really summed it up, that our programs and our partnerships in the town are so valuable to us. And we've had the privilege really of working with, the Council on Aging, the School Department, some of you around the table, on different community-based events, and, are really very lucky to be able to have such strong partnerships in Burlington.
So I'm just looking at my notes. We
Yeah.
did commit $10 million in community support dollars last year, and we anticipate maintaining that level of support, if not growing it, moving forward.
One point to add on the governance model is that the Leahy Health Hospital will maintain its own board. So we have local representation right here from Burlington and the greater Burlington community, and we think that's really important.
So our Board of Trustees continues moving forward. Let me pause and invite questions.
So there's be quite a few comments, I'm assuming, at this point here. I have quite a few, but I'm gonna start with Bob over here.
I'll let Jimmy start.
We'll start with Jimmy.
I'll start on a positive note. I'm not sure if you're aware that the lady sitting in the middle is an exemplary employee, an example of what Leahy's done for this town. I've worked with Michelle on numerous community events, and she's been there for just about every event in town. So she's a great asset to the Leahy, a great asset to the town. I'd hate to see Leahy lose that community outlook, because I look at Leahy as not just being in Burlington, but part of Burlington.
So we have no intention of taking our foot off the gas in that commitment, and we fully recognize Michelle's value to the organization and the community.
Because working with the Domestic Violence Board initiative, we've done the farmers markets at some of the apartment complexes. Burlington is such a diverse town, both culturally, religiously, that I know Michelle and I have worked to try to reach the groups that normally wouldn't reach out to people that can help them. So where people won't come to us, we try to go to them. And I just want to see that continue because, like I said, Burlington, to me, Leahy's part of Burlington, not just in Burlington, and I just want to keep that relationship going.
Couldn't agree more.
Now, would you like to go?
Being married to a nurse, I wanted to make sure that someone said nice things about the nursing staff. I know firsthand that they are exemplary, and as good as the physicians are, they work hand in hand with a strong and fabulous nursing staff up there, too.
Couldn't agree more. You know, having been a patient, having been pretty sick myself on a couple of occasions and had a number of family members, what happens from the nursing staff at the bedside is often more important than what happens the one or two times that a physician visits each day. We are blessed to have a superb nursing staff. You know, ballot one was very controversial. We learned a lot from the concerns that were raised during the course of the ballot one discussion, and despite the fact that ballot one did not carry, we went back and began a dialogue with our nursing staff about how to make the care better and better, and how to assure that all of us were confident that the staffing was appropriate for the patients that we serve.
Good for you, thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's Scott and Michelle are frequent visitors here and at other events, and so, Doctor, we welcome you to Burlington and look
Thank you.
forward to seeing more of you.
Thank you.
We're certainly fortunate here in Burlington to have Leahy Hospital in our community. You serve our community very, very well, not only through healthcare, but through employment opportunities. And, you know, we certainly value that relationship that we have with you. I do want to point out that we're getting a lot of positive feedback from your recent acquisition of South Bedford Street, particularly from our senior population. They don't have those parking garage fees any longer to deal with, so bravo for
Thank you.
for that acquisition. And
Thank you.
thank you. Nice to see you all here tonight.
And Mike, if you ever want to come and get a tour of that facility,
I'm there every day I go to work, Scott. I work for the fire department, so I'm a frequent guest, a visitor at both the emergency room and South Bedford Street.
I'm sorry to hear about the frequent visitor at the emergency room.
Well, I bring my patients.
He's a friend.
Nick?
Yeah, just a couple brief things. First off, thank you all for being here, really appreciate it, and Dr. Longworth, welcome.
Thank you.
You preemptively answered my questions about the merger and how it's going to work and how the reporting structure works, which I think is really important to how an operation of this size relates back to what you opened with is the relationships, right? And, you know, the politics of everything. So thank you for that, and thank you for reaffirming the relationship that Leahy Health and the town of Burlington have. I think that we all appreciate that. We appreciate everything that Leahy has done for the community and has promised to continue to do for the community. And like I always say, you know, relationships are, you know, we have to prove them every day. And so we'll obviously continue to do our part, and we hope that, you know, you obviously, you know, work with us in every way possible moving forward. And I know you said you will, so.
We look forward to it.
I do absolutely appreciate that, and we look forward to it as well. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've heard from everybody, so I would like to say a few things. What you do for this town is unheard of, so I can't thank you enough for what you do for this town of Burlington. Scott, you've been a pleasure to work with over the years. I've talked to Mr. Sagarino over here of the conversations that we've had on different items that have gone on. Michelle, Jimmy said everything there is to say about you as far as the person goes. So we're not losing anything, which is a huge plus for the town of Burlington. On a private note, I would personally like to say thank you, because there's four of us here that there's, what, three of us?
Plus Chris.
Well, Chris, there's three of us here, plus Chris, that have visited Leahy Clinic on a different side of the way the clinic works. So I want to thank you for keeping us around for a little while. And once again, you talked about nurses. They were fantastic during my procedure. The doctors were outstanding. I was there for 24 hours and I was in and out. It couldn't have been, I actually had a really good time. I didn't want to go home. I wanted to have it done again tomorrow. That was my words on the way out. But how do I say thank you? Thank you for being in Burlington. It's a great relationship that we have. I hope we continue it to go forward. What else can I say but thank you for being in Burlington?
Well, thank you. You know, it's wonderful to hear personal stories like several of you have just told. And one of the things that's been particularly gratifying for me in this new role is that the number of personal notes and emails and telephone calls about great care that people are receiving has gone like that in the last 12 to 18 months. And that's just incredibly gratifying because it means we're on the right track.
If you'd like gratifying, I'll tell you this. I got to know Scott through a personal endeavor with my dad last July. That's how I got to know Scott. And he was far above anything I could ever ask for as far as questions being answered, little things here. Let me call this for you. He was available constantly for me and my family. So just that alone to me was amazing. And I just want to say thank you for that.
You're welcome.
It was incredible what you did for
So
my family.
one last comment. My personal cell is 413. I'm serious.
Really?
413-426.
Wait, before you finish, this is on TV.
It's all right.
All right,
I give this to my patients.
okay.
And
all right.
you think
Well, right now, I'm it's grateful you're giving us this, but this is going to the whole town of Burlington, anybody that wants to rewatch this. You might want to think about that one. You might want to think about that
Send you
one.
an email.
Fantastic, fantastic, yeah, this is, get those last four numbers.
Thank you.
There'll be people in the house going, all right, how many digits are there? How many times can I do
Well,
this?
it means they have to make about 10,000 calls in order to get the right
Oh,
sequence.
all right. Well, thank you very much for the email we're going to receive on your personal number, and thank you
send
once
that
again. Thank you once again for being in Burlington.
There at any point, please let me know.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have a continued hearing, 083, and that's being moved.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we need to continue the public hearing for this liquor license until May 13th, 6:30 PM.
May 13th at 6:30. Do I have a motion?
Do we have to announce the location, because it's a different venue, I believe?
Yeah, it's at the high school.
Yes, please.
That's,
Good
Was it at
catch.
the high school?
thank you,
Yeah,
Jim.
it's-
Town meeting.
It's a night it's a night of town meeting.
Night of town meeting,
At
okay.
the school committee room.
Okay.
Chairman, I'll make a motion, we move the continued public hearing for Lester's Roadside Barbecue transfer license to Tawasaw Group LLC, doing business as White Coconut Thai Restaurant, to May 13th, 6:30 PM at Burlington High School.
First by Jim, second by?
Second.
Nick, okay. Nick, all those in favor?
Aye.
500, Betty.
Thank you.
Okay. 084, approval. Regional Housing Office, Service Office, was withdrawn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a little bit of background on this one. We received a request from Jim Doherty, the town's housing coordinator, to ask the board to vote to withdraw from the Regional Housing Services Office agreement that the town has engaged in for the past several years. The RHSO is a regional consortium in concert with Acton, Bedford, Concord, Lexington, Sudbury, and Weston to assist us with managing the town's affordable housing issues. After managing this agreement for several years, Jim has determined that the town would be better served by withdrawing from the consortium and putting in place an agreement with the consultant. The cost of our current contribution to the consortium has been between $9,000 and $18,000 annually. Under the agreement Jim has negotiated with the consultant, the town would only pay for services as needed and on an hourly basis at an estimated maximum annual cost of $5,000. Jim believes that this change in the billing structure will result in cost savings for the town, but still allow us to have access for expert advice when it's needed. The consortium is well aware of the town's intent to withdraw, and this action will not impact their ongoing operations. Our agreement with the RHSO requires that we provide an official 60-day notice, so we're requesting that the board vote to withdraw from the consortium, and we'll also request that town council provide official notice as required under Section 7 of the attached agreement.
Thank you, Paul. So, just make a motion on this?
Oh, can I just comment?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've worked with Jim Doherty in the Housing Partnership for a number of years now, and I just want to say thank you to Jim. He has really done an outstanding job operating the vessel that this affordable housing program is. We continue to lead our neighbors by leaps and bounds in this area, and Jim has just done an outstanding job, and I have all the confidence in the world that this is, will certainly be a cause. You look at, we're saving some money here, and if necessary, we still have availability to those services, so I would support the motion to withdraw from that agreement.
Are there any other comments? At that point, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Motion by Mike, second by Nick. All those in favor? Aye. 500, Betty.
Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you to Mike for bringing that up. I mean, a lot of what's allowing us to be able to do this is the vigor which Jim has gotten up to speed on these housing issues, and the way he approaches things in a very hands-on manner has given us the comfort level to be able to withdraw from this agreement and save the town some funds at the same time. So thank you.
A question, do we have any votes to take in order to get into the new contract or whatever legal document that Jim is signing with whoever?
No.
You all set, Paul?
Yes, thank you.
So we'll move right along to 085, renewal approval, holding special town meeting, May 20th, 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're asking the board to call a special town meeting for Monday, May 20th at 7:30 PM as per Article 2, Section 1.1 of the town's bylaws. We received a couple of submissions that were not timely for the annual town meeting warrant, and they're of significant importance to the town. If the board agrees with this, we'll be mailing to town meeting members approximately on May 2nd. And on one of these articles, it was submitted in time, but just not in a complete enough form. So I know there's one article on there, and one article, two articles which came up because of an opportunity that the town has on an affordable housing issue. So we would like to ask on this item for the board to call a special town meeting. And on the next item, we'll ask you to add these three particular items onto the warrant.
Do we have any comments on this?
Mr. Chairman, if I might, Paul, so how, procedurally, just this is a curiosity question, how does this work? We call, town meeting gets called to order, and do we immediately enter, because if we're starting this at 7:30, like, do we just work between 7 and 7:30, what we can get through, and then jump to this?
We'll work it out with the moderator. It has happened one time previously, where they basically hold the special town meeting in the middle of the annual town meeting. So at some point, 7:30 on May 20th, the moderator will temporarily adjourn the annual and open up the special town meeting. We'll get through that work, and then we'll jump right back into the annual town meeting, depending upon where we are in terms of finishing that agenda. So.
Sure. Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, on that, do we, anybody else, we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll motion that we hold the special town meeting on May 20th at 7:30 PM.
Second.
Motion by Nick, second by Mike, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 500, Betty.
Thank you.
Thank you. Move right along to 087, review approved.
Let's go back to 86, please.
Oh, I missed one, I'm sorry. I was writing on it. 086, special town meeting warrant articles.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's 3 articles to be taken up during the special town meeting. We'll ask for board votes on them on the 13th, but for tonight's vote, we're just asking you to add these 3 particular items onto the special town meeting warrant. We have one warrant article where there's a potential to execute a first right of refusal on an affordable housing unit. The second article relates to the setting up of an official affordable housing trust fund, which many communities have done already, sort of in concert with some work that's being done on affordable housing in the community right now. And the third article is an update to the general bylaws for the longstanding small cell issue that we've been talking about for several months now. So those are the 3 items that we're asking you to put onto the warrant that we just called for the special town meeting.
Okay, one quick question. Do you want us to do these individually, or would you like us to do it all together as one vote?
One vote is fine.
Yeah.
If you have an issue with any of them, you would break them
Okay,
up.
so we'll do it this way. On Article 1, 117 South Bedford, does anybody have an issue with that particular item they'd like to talk about? Being none, we'll move right down to Article 2. Does anybody want to speak on?
I just have a quick question. Is this in any way related to the Community Preservation Act?
No,
No, okay,
not at all.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so back to Article 2. Does anybody have any questions on Article 2? None? Okay. Any questions on the general bylaw for Article 3? This wireless cell. Okay, so now we have no questions, so we'll just take as we could at this point, anybody have a motion to?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for the 3 articles that have just been discussed for the special town meeting coming up on the 20th of May. One for the financial article, one for the general article, and one general bylaw article.
Okay, first by second by Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
500, Betty. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, can I go to 87, Pat? Okay, skip right down to that one. 087, May Annual Town Meeting warrant articles. Mr. Sagarino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You folks, I know have spent a lot of time reading through the May town meeting warrant and all the backup. And tonight, we have, John is here to join us, and we're going to walk through Selectmen's warrant articles and answer as many questions as we can that the board may have and ask you for some votes on them. Gave the department heads the night off, didn't drag them in here, so if there are any of them that we are unable to answer your questions on, then we can, we'll invite those department heads to the meeting on May 13th to tidy up any unknown information at that time. But between John and I, we're hopeful that we can answer as many questions as possible from the board, so. If, I don't know how you'd like to proceed, would you like me to
I would like
start
you
off?
to, yeah, just start out at the top, we'll work our way down, and we'll go from there, I guess.
Yep.
What should be a better idea? One second.
We've already voted on your financial articles. Where did you want us to start, Paul?
We'll be starting, we already voted on the departmental budgets.
Yeah.
So we're gonna take up individual warrant articles. So starting with Article 4, which is actually, I believe, gonna be withdrawn at town meeting, but,
Transfer free cash?
yep.
Okay, we're
Ways and
starting.
Means voted not to move that one.
Okay.
So that's, no vote necessary on that one.
Would that be 4 and, no, it wouldn't be 5, never mind.
So Article 5, why don't we start with Article 5?
Go right ahead, sir.
Transfer from free cash to the OPEB trust fund. As the board's aware, we budget for OPEB within the operating budget, and because it's such a high-profile topic, if we have free cash available, Ways and Means chose to want to allocate a little bit additional free cash towards the OPEB liability, so that's what this article would do. It would put another $500,000 into the OPEB trust fund to hedge against a bad economy or the way the thing works, as we've talked about ad nauseum, is the more funding that goes in the beginning benefits us in a very big way towards the end. So that's what this is an attempt to do.
Do you want us
$500,000.
to vote on each one of these after you go through them?
Please, yes.
Okay. So any questions on that at all?
Just
Yep.
quickly, so that number is 500,000.
Yes,
What was it last year, do you recall?
it was 500,000 last year. Yep, this is the discussion we have with the Ways and Means Committee, when we talk about, the town's free cash and, how we would like to utilize the free cash this year. So, this is an option that was selected by Ways and Means as a good use of our free cash funding.
Okay, and what didn't we put into stabilization that we typically put in?
That's always a judgment call, Mike. There's not a hard and fast rule as to what the stabilization fund should be. When we look at the town's reserves, we like it to be at least 10% of expenditures, the 10% of the budgeted number, and we're well over that now between our free cash, our stabilization fund, our unused taxing capacity. We have very strong reserves at this point, so Ways and Means, in their decision, chose not to put any additional funds into the stabilization fund this year.
Okay, so, but you're still comfortable then with just the 500 for the OPEB? You didn't want to beef that up since nothing's going to stabilization?
Nope,
Comfortable with
there's
it,
more,
you guys?
there's more use of free cash as we go through on
Yeah, I
most
see
of
it.
these.
I
So
see
you'll get to see sort of how it's been utilized as we work through the warrant.
Okay, thank you for that.
Anybody else? Well, do I have a
Mr.
motion?
Chairman, if I might.
Oh,
Sorry. Paul, if I may, the 500,000,
Yep.
is that what we need to be putting, like, I don't understand, because I'm obviously still picking up the pieces on this. Is that what we need to be putting in? Is it a percentage larger? Like, where does it stand in the whole grand scheme of us funding this?
Well, first of all, under law, we're not required to put anything in. So the town's involved in a voluntary program to sort of get ahead of this liability.
Right.
So we have a funding schedule that if everything went perfectly, which it won't, but if everything went perfectly, it should close the liability over a 30-year time frame, and that's what we have in the operating budget. So that's already been voted on, and that's a schedule that increases about 9% every year. Ways and Means thoroughly believes in the concept of pre-funding this, so they feel that this is an additional contribution that will help us the next time we value how much our liability is, just in terms of, I mean, it's heavily dependent upon the investment market, so they look at it as a hedge against healthcare costs rising or poor investment returns. By putting this additional money in at the beginning of the process should really reap us benefits, long after any of us are here, as the town is reviewing this, 30 years from now.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, just as a point, Nick, this may be one of those things you add to your to-do list along with retirement.
Yes.
They're similar in the way they're funded
Okay.
in advance, and you may want to sit down with John and just kind of go over it, and there's a lot of information there, and it's important what we're doing, but it's important for you to know what we're doing so that you can, defend it.
Right, no, absolutely. And I have some base knowledge, having, spent some time on Ways and Means, and, I understand, like, what we're working toward. I think everything's happened really fast, and I'm just making sure that I'm all caught up, so, but yeah, thank you.
You'll never be caught up.
Yeah, that's what I'm quickly understanding. But thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
okay, all set on that one. Do we have a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
500, Betty. Mr. Sagarino?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. Next up is the town revolving fund article, and what we're doing with this article is we're setting an upward expenditure limit for the various funds that we vote at town meeting as revolving funds. So there's a full detail of those funds within the backup, but these are the same revolving funds that we vote every year. And the amount that you note in the warrant is the amount that the department can use of that revolving fund on an annual basis. So we're just voting the expenditure limits on this one.
Any comments?
The same as last year.
There was one change, and it was at the request of the Board of Health with their revolving fund. So other than that, it's the same as last year.
With that, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr.
Next up is a big article. We will, unless the board has questions on other departments' articles, we'll just proceed with those departments that report to the board. And I think I'll turn this one over to John. He can start so that I can stop talking. And we'll start with 7-1 MIS, John.
Okay, thank you. The first warrant article, as Paul just said, is from MIS. It's for $68,000, and it's for the next phase of updating some modules from Munis. We're going to be adding 3 new modules that we don't currently use that will benefit the employees, benefit customers, and benefit the treasurer's office. They're called Tyler Content Manager, Employee Self-Serve, and Customer Self-Serve. So it's things, just a quick overview, things like if someone wants to make changes on their withholdings, they can go online. It'll allow us to be able to do electronic pay stubs and not have to print out pay stubs. It'll allow for some billing efficiencies and being able to look up bills online. And it's for $68,000.
Okay. Do you want to do these individually, or do you want to do these as a collective group?
These would have to be individual.
Okay. So do we have any questions on that? 7-1. Yes, Mr. Priest.
So, John, in terms of the $68,000, I guess it's a couple questions. Is it on an annual basis, or is it is it a fee, or like what does the $68,000 get us?
So it covers buying the initial license, implementation, training, those pieces, and then there is an annual fee, but it's not.
$68,000. Okay. Do you know
That would be
offhand?
rolled into the regular operating budget where we pay for Munis.
Okay, so this additional licensing will just go on to our Munis licensing fee that we budget for?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Did you say you had 2 questions, or were they both answered?
They were both answered.
Okay. Do I have a motion on this then? Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
John, probably gonna go to the clerks now?
I was gonna go to police.
Police, clerk's different.
So the next one for police is some upgrades to the door security and the cell camera system in the cells. The backup is quite extensive with pictures and does it way more justice than I could explain, but it has to do with how they operate the cameras, and I'm scrolling down to it as we speak. And having the key fob system for the doors to be able to properly secure that area. And it is for $32,279.20.
Any comments, Mr. Sagarino, anything, or
No, just,
anybody from the board?
unless there's anything from the board.
A motion by Mike,
Second.
second Nick, all those in favor? Aye.
The next one with fire is EMS, the EMS computer-aided dispatch. In the backup, there's a memo from the chiefs about backup, and the memo from the chiefs in there is they're upgrading their,
Computer-aided dispatch.
thank you, Paul. Right now, there's two systems they have that don't communicate well with each other, and there's a lot of manual entry that's required. What they're trying to do is upgrade to a system where they can put this stuff in to one system and have it spit out the reports that they currently use two systems to get those reports, one being their statewide fire reports and one being the ambulance data that they need, response times and things like that.
Anything? Anybody?
Just one question that's not necessarily assigned here, but are we still having conversations about a joint dispatch?
I have not had any conversations on that. I know that that's something that Mr. Petrin had talked about from time to time, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, on that note, do I have a motion?
Second.
So moved and
How much was it
seconded.
for? I'm sorry, how much was it for?
I'm sorry, it is for, Paul, do you have that right there? $22,752.75.
Thank you, sir. That's the motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye. Abstain.
Abstain. 4-0-1.
Next one is for fire security cameras. Replacement at the headquarters. This is for $15,296. These are the current camera system that they have in there is between 10 and 20 years old. There's 9 cameras in there, and they're old analog cameras, and 6 out of 9 of them aren't working as well as they should be. They're taking the opportunity of some upgrades that the MIS department has made in video storage in their servers, and they want to try to upgrade those cameras to digital cameras that we now have the capability to store that. And MIS department is on board with this and would be, I think, handling most of the work.
And how much was that for, you said?
$15,296.
So moved.
Any- So moved, seconded.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All abstain. Betty, 4-0-1 again. DPW,
First one in DPW is $42,000 for some work at Mill Pond. And they're taking advantage of some sediment removal system that they're installing this coming summer and, actually, this coming winter, I'm sorry. And while they're doing that, they're gonna do some work to repair some deteriorated concrete, and the effluent system. Like most of Mr. Sanchez's stuff, I don't understand what it means, so I try to read it and not mispronounce the words. So I don't know, Paul, you may have something more to add on that, but
I'm pretty sure effluent is bad, so it's removing the effluent. But it's essentially a lot of concrete repairs on some of the tanks and items. And since they're going to be doing some other work at the plant during that time, they felt it was a good time to sort of tidy up this part of the plant and repair it while the plant was shut down, given the fact of what a big deal it is for us to shut down the plant for this period of time, so.
thank you. Any comments?
Motion.
Motion?
Second.
Motion is seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0-0.
the next one is for Vinebrook filter repairs for $80,000. It's pretty self-explanatory to repair some of the 3 filters at Vinebrook. This is year 1 of the plan of a 3-year plan.
Comments?
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Is this 80,000 for all 3 years, or is this just
This is just year 1.
this year?
The board may recall, we had to do an emergency repair of a filter with a Ways and Means Reserve Fund transfer earlier this year. So the long-term plan is to discontinue Vinebrook once new water supply is in place, but not until we need significant reinvestment in it. So the plan is to keep it going as long as it's working, and we will need these filter replacements in order to keep the plant working until we're able to replace the town's water supply, so.
Yes.
So Paul, do we know how much it's gonna cost us roughly to maintain Vinebrook during this time as we move to the MWRA?
In terms of maintain, I think the plan is to continue to maintain it as a viable facility without making any major investments in it.
Sure. And given the age of the facility, do we feel like we can do that? And I mean, I would hope we've at least evaluated the facility and said, okay, we know what's gonna roughly go wrong or how old everything is, and we can say within a certain margin of error that it should cost us X amount of dollars over the next 3 or 4 years while we're making this transition, so that we can at least be prepared financially for what may be coming.
Well, typically, we would end up using this plant for a lot longer if we weren't going to put in an alternative water supply. So, like many of our facilities, we use them well beyond their useful life. As a community, that's just the way things work. If something's built for 30 years, we'll use it for 50 or 60, so.
Right, no, and absolutely.
They do have,
Make the tax dollars work, right? But
they do have a facility reinvestment plan, and again, the goal is to keep the facility running for as long as we can without making significant investments into it, so.
sure, okay. The only reason I ask is because when we had the Water Commission do their whole deal around looking at the facilities and looking at the MWRA, I remember Mr. Sanchez saying that the facility was toward the end of its life anyways. I just want to make sure that, we're well-balanced moving forward, so that we don't, a year and a half from now, have to suddenly spend $100,000 just to maintain something that we should have known was, kind of coming down the pike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that being said, we have a motion? Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
500.
Next one is with TPW, it's for $200,000, and it's the stream cleaning and drainage repair project that's been ongoing since 2001. What they do is clean the accumulated settlement in streams and repair any damaged or failed drainage systems. And the plan for this coming season is to clean the stream that runs from Cedar Street to Eastern Ave and to repair the drain line on Cary Ave.
Board's familiar with this one. We have allocated funds towards stream cleaning to alleviate flooding almost every year since I've been here, so just a continuation of that program.
Just a quick note on my end, this is a really good program for the town. This really helps out a lot of residents.
Absolutely.
So, do we have any questions on it? I have motion,
Motion.
second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. The next one is the vehicle replacement program for the DPW. This amount there's an amount annually appropriated to renew the fleet that they have of all their vehicles. This year's amount is $480,250 to replace a sander truck, a front-end loader, cemetery truck.
Any questions on the replacement of vehicles?
Not,
Years of mileage and all that.
yeah, not so much a question.
No comment.
Do either of you want to give just the Reader's Digest version of what they do with the old vehicles, so people listening understand what's going on, or should we do that at town meeting?
Actually don't know exactly what they're doing with these, but for the most part, by the time we're ready to replace them, they're ready to be disposed of, salvaged, or traded in. I think one of these is a 2001, and the front-end loader is a 1997, so we try to get 20 years out of those, but it becomes to a point where it's not feasible to continue to maintain it and repair it. So if the asset has any useful life left to it whatsoever, they'll keep it as a backup, or they'll reassign it to a department where it has a lesser use to use as a backup. But in many cases, by the time we get to this point where we're replacing them, that they're ready to be traded in or salvaged.
And that last vehicle has 150,000 miles on it.
Okay, with that being then, motion second.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. 5-0 again.
The next item, so also for DPW, it's $220,000 to repair the roof at the library. The roof is originally from the renovation in 1995. It's the original roof. It's a rubber roof with a thin mat and then covered by stone. So they've had issues with leaks over time, and it's time to replace.
Is that
What was the dollar amount?
220?
No, oh, yeah, it is 220.
220.
220. Any comments?
Motion approved.
Second. Moved, seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next item is repair to the elevator at police headquarters for $50,000.
They have stairs, don't they?
Sorry?
They have stairs, don't they? They're not here right now.
So the idea is to
Oh, sorry,
replace the elevator controls because it's hard to get parts in due to the age of the system.
Any questions? Officer?
No, I mean, it's probably ADA required because it's a public building.
I get it. No.
If I may, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman. So this is part of a plan to do all,
Yes, I believe DPW Facilities Department's going to be bringing additional elevator repair requests from other buildings as well in the future years. So they're trying to put that as part of the many replacement programs that they do with painting, floors. So,
Under the Facilities Department of DPW.
yes. So I do expect that we will see additional elevator repairs going forward in other buildings.
okay.
Anybody else? Motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Storage shed.
I'll take this one, John. This was a proposal to build a storage shed for the Historical Commission. They have a bunch of items that are currently in storage at Clark and Reed, which we're going to be building the new DPW facility, so we're going to have to get them out of there. Upon further discussion with the Historical Commission, we were able to determine that the Historical Commission sort of has some future plans for where we were going to put this shed. So we've agreed to not put the shed there and to come up with a temporary storage solution for their items. I think we'll probably put something up at Overlook. We spoke to Recreation. And just to buy us some more time to determine what the Historical Commission might like to do. I think that they're interested in building some type of historical replica down at the West School. And that was not what this project was. We were simply looking at it from providing a good storage area for some of their items. But upon conversation with the commission, they would prefer not to have that on this site. So I think we will most likely be withdrawing this article. We just need to speak to Mr. Sanchez when he returns from vacation. But if I had to bet on it right now, we'll be withdrawing this article.
You still want us to vote on it?
Vote, if you wouldn't mind voting on it in case it moves forward. But at this point in time, I believe it's going to be withdrawn at town meeting.
Michael, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This would be the second or third year in a row that this storage shed item has been postponed or withdrawn. I would like to, during the next several months, try and resolve as best we can this, work with the Historical Commission to get this done. They're a hard-working group. They have a very small budget. And I think there's going to be a little, another setback to that group. But I would like to try and make this a priority in the coming months.
Yeah, we've offered our assistance in helping them to prepare a warrant article for next year to describe sort of what it is that they really want to do. It's not basic storage shed.
I've seen it.
So we've offered our staff assistance to help them with the process next year and to possibly get more accurate pricing on what they might want to do and also, you know, what type of boards approvals they may need to do it on that site. So we've offered to work with them on that moving forward to see if they could put together a proposal for what they would actually really like to do.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I think that this is really important, actually. Not even just the shed, but the sense of town historical preservation. And, you know, making sure that whatever facility we do approve, hopefully town meeting approves, you know, has the right, I mean, I assume that they'd be storing more than just, you know, a yolk, you know? They probably eventually want to store photos or, you know, other more types of documents that may not fare well unless the building was temperature controlled. You know, things like that, that I'd love to have a conversation about, you know, moving down the line, because this isn't a 5-year thing. This is a, you know, as we preserve, you know, pieces of the town's history, we want to make sure that they stay preserved.
Well, I think it's part of a larger conversation. We've done a lot of work to the Historical Museum over the past several years. So we have been working with them pretty closely to get repairs done to that facility for the first time in a long time. So we'll just continue the conversation with them.
One more question. What was the number on this one?
30,000.
30? Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor? Aye. 500.
Next one is item 7-31. It's also for the DPW, and it's the last one in Article 7. It's for sewer pump station rehabilitation. It's an ongoing process or program where they're going through the 14 pump stations throughout, in operation in the town, and making the upgrades needed to the technology to get it to current technology, and also making them code compliant.
Any questions on this one? Mr.
If you have a
Sagarino?
sewer pump in your neighborhood, you want it to work properly. So
Yes, you
we've
do.
pretty aggressively invested in renovating those one at a time over probably the past decade we've been working on them, so
Number on that, John?
50,
50,000.
paid from existing sewer funds.
Any other comments or questions? All those,
I know it cost us a lot more than that when that other one failed.
Yes, it was a nightmare,
So
actually.
it's a good investment, sorry.
it's okay. Nope, absolutely. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
500, Betty. Okay.
Next one, Article 8, is the purchase of an ambulance. Currently, the town operates 3 ambulances, has one that's the primary, one that's the secondary, and one that's the spare. The spare is a 2005. We would be buying a new ambulance, $380,000, and that would replace the one that's, everything would bump down one. That would become the new one, the primary ambulance, and everything else would bump down one.
Currently have ambulances on a 5-year replacement program, which means that we generally get around to replacing them on the sixth or 7th year. But that's the general schedule that we try to keep to for ambulances every 5 years.
And this one is from 2005. I think we missed that 5-year cycle by a bit.
A little bit.
I imagine, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I imagine it would take a little time to spec it out and even get it here as well.
Yep, they're pretty much custom designed, you know, so it is almost a 1-year process. I think we purchased a fire engine last year at town meeting, and they're just about ready to start construction of that now, almost a year later. So there is a process involved in buying these specific pieces of equipment.
So in essence, we're buying it this year, probably implemented next year. So
Yeah.
the current ambulance will have, all 3 of them will have another year's life on them by the time this even comes around.
Yep, and just to point out for Bob, we have a 2005, a 2010, and 2016. So we're almost on the 5-year plan, but they are big ticket items, so it's a challenge for us to finance these when they come up.
And not to belabor it, but when you want that vehicle, it better get to where you are.
I reiterate that.
Yeah.
I use my home. Any other questions on this? I have one question. The 380, is that for the ambulance stocked, completely stocked, or is it just the ambulance with the bells and whistles and the lights and sirens? That's got nothing inside of it as far as medical supplies?
I think for the supplies and stuff, they probably transfer it over whenever applicable to the ambulance that's being replaced, with the stretchers and whatnot, so.
I think you're correct on that.
Yep.
I'm just trying to figure out if we needed stretchers for this, if that included the stretchers, or if it included everything else that's in an ambulance, you know?
Yeah, I think it
Just-
includes a lot, but not the actual stuff that goes inside of it.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Second.
Motion is second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
401. Thank you. Water main upgrade.
You want me to keep going? Article 9, water main upgrade. This is an every other year appropriation for $1 million. In the backup, it gets into a little bit about particular jobs they're gonna do, but this is one that you see every other year.
Okay, any questions? Sagarino?
Funding source on that one?
Typically, on another year, it'd be a borrow, but because we had significant free cash this year, we made a decision to try to fund this out of free cash as well, to keep it off the borrowing schedule and then free up capacity for larger projects. So it's a free cash appropriation for this year. So every other year, we do $1 million on water main replacement, and then every other year, we do $3 million on paving and road repair. So that's an every other year part of our program.
What did you budget for free cash spending this session at town meeting?
We had about $11 million total certified, a little bit more than that. We typically like to save at least $4 million for the following year, so that's been protected within the spending plan. And then we typically spend about $3 million on articles such as the smaller ones that we just talked about. And then if there's any excess at that point, that's when we work with the Ways and Means Committee to say that's where the OPEB article came from. Hey, why don't we put some towards OPEB? And the other main crux of what we've tried to do is to pay for stuff that we could borrow for with cash, and then that keeps that bond payment off the bond schedule and allows us to afford additional investments in some of the larger things that we've been doing, DPW facility, school projects and such.
Yes, Nick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Seeing here in the backup that the overall system is approaching a 50-year life, does that mean that the interconnections, the mains that we're replacing have 50-year lives?
Yes, I think
Presumably.
there's a very long, on water and sewer infrastructure, once it's in the ground.
Okay.
It has a very long, useful life. It's probably allowed to borrow for 30 years, but generally, I think in a lot of communities, it's much older than that. So I forget how many miles of water pipe we have underlined, but it's underground, but it's pretty significant. So I think it's important that we try to replace a little bit every year so that we never get too far behind on it. But there's quite a bit of stuff underneath the ground that none of us really, the residents, we can't really visually see it, so we can't really see it deteriorating, but clearly water supply is very important, so.
Any others? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And second?
Yep.
Okay, motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
500, Betty. Burlington Mall, ornamental, streetlights.
Yeah, Article 10.
Same thing.
It's labeled Burlington Mall ornamental streetlights, but it's really a two-part project. It's there's much needed wiring upgrades in that system, stretch of lights that goes from, South Bedford to Middlesex Turnpike. They have to replace the wiring anyway, so they're coupling that with replacing the couple of sections that haven't had the upgraded lights yet, like there are in front of the district or in front of Leahy. There's patches from I'm sorry, from Cambridge Road all the way to Middlesex River. So there's patches from Cambridge Road to Leahy that don't have them, then from there to the district don't have them, and then from the district to Middlesex Turnpike.
I just want to remind you, because you're from Woburn, it's Cambridge Street. But you guys have seen we have sections on Mall Road that have outstanding, brand-new black lighting. And, you know, we've been able to get assistance on some of that as projects were approved. We've been sort of waiting for additional assistance, but we don't really feel as though there's any other redevelopment plan for those various sections that are not done yet. So right now, we sort of have a mix of the old, they're called Cobra lights. We learned that during our discussion with Public Works. But we'd like to see if we can work to get some uniformity so that the entire street looks the way as the sections that have been done over. If we're unable to pursue funding, we probably would have to piecemeal this over time. So the goal was to try to get it done all at once and try to take advantage of some of that economies of scale from doing it, being able to purchase everything up at once and save a few dollars that way.
And the number on this, Paul? Or John?
John, it's $1 million?
It's 1.1.
Any questions on this?
I do.
Yes, sir.
I think it's important that we try to stress that it's not just the lights, it's the electrical system from Cambridge Street up to Mall Road. So I think we need to stress to the public, we're not just looking at the lights, we're looking to upgrade the infrastructure of the lighting system all along Mall Road. Because if that goes out, if those lights go out, that's a very heavily traveled road. And that could, impact safety. So we have to make sure we educate, town meeting and the public that it's not just the lights we're looking for. We're looking for the wire, I assume replacement, upgrading the wires from Cambridge Street to the Turnpike. So I think we just need to, use that point as well when we present this.
No
Thank
doubt
you.
Mr. Sanchez will do a much better job.
Well, I just wanted to make the public and those that are watching know that this discussion this particular article isn't just ornamental lights. It's a lot more than that under the surface, so literally.
Great point, Jim.
Anybody else? Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next one, Article 11 is Phase 2 of the DPW Recreation Facility. You may remember that Phase 1 was funded last year. That was for $16,500,000. That was to do the Clark and Reed site and the gas fuel pumps behind the annex here. That's underway, being designed. Phase 2 is the reconstruction of the DPW site itself on Great Meadow. The estimated cost right now is $15,500,000, $15.5 million. And this was slated to come before town meeting next year. But the reason it's here now to get approval only is because if we can realize some potential savings by bidding it as one project, get one contractor, get the continuity of building systems, that would be advantageous for us. So we wouldn't spend it on any different schedule than we were planning on anyway, but we're just asking for the approval earlier so that we can combine the two projects as one.
Any questions? Paul, like to say anything on this one? Okay. Motion?
Yes.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor? Aye. 500.
Article 12, Chapter 90. This is vote to just approve the annual allotment for Chapter 90 transportation aid from the state. There's a letter included in the background for our fiscal year 2020 allotment is $1,081,766.
That it?
Just vote to accept, please.
Any questions, comments? A motion?
Motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
4-0.
I'm sure Joe would have approved, given an
All right.
aye vote on that one.
All right.
Article 13 is the MWRA I&I debt service. This is on there multiple years. This is to pay back the 0% loans that we get. So when there's an allotment for I&I funds from the MWRA, 75% of it is a grant that you don't have to pay back. The other 25% is 0% loan that you do have to pay back over a specific amount of time, whether it's 5 or 10 years. We currently have 2 loans that we're paying back. One was a 5-year loan, this is year 4 of the payment. One is a 10-year loan, this is year 3 of the payment, and they total $69,515.
And just to point out for the board, this is repaid from funds that are set aside from folks that are tying into our sewer system. They have to pay into this fund to purchase capacity in the system. So it's not tax funds that are repaying these loans.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
Motion.
Motion by Bob,
Second.
second by Nick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Article,
Fourteen.
Article 15?
14.
14.
14? Oh, sewer enterprise fund, sorry, I skipped right over that one. So this is the annual assessment for our MWRA sewer payment.
What we go?
It's, I don't have the dollar amount, it's not in the back. It's 599.
Yeah, but what's under number 14? Hold on, give me 2 seconds. Yeah, it's 5,959,990.
And we pay for this, gentlemen, with the money you pay for sewer on your sewer bill, so.
You get that one, or you want me to handle it?
Go ahead. I don't know where we left off.
All right, any questions or comments on this one? Because I have one comment. Just for the public, even though we're anticipating MWRA water, we currently use MWRA for sewer. So that's why we're paying the MWRA this assessment. So even though we don't have the water from them, we still use it for storage.
Correct.
All right. Any motion?
Yep.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Back to you.
Article 15 is MWRA Phase 11 and 12 for I&I. This is, like we just talked about, the loans. This is the next phase. The allotment is $2,220,000, and will be handled the same way, where 75% of that would be available in a grant that you don't have to pay back. 25% would be in 0% loans that we would have to pay back over a period of time. We decide at that.
So we have to put the million up, the 2 million up first and then get reimbursed?
No, we have to authorize the whole 2 million in order for us
To get the
take the
75%.
grant and to borrow the money from them, basically.
It's a great program, inflow, infiltration. Inflow isn't someone intentionally adding water into the sewer system that doesn't belong there. Infiltration just occurs from rainwater and groundwater getting into the existing sewer pipes. So we try to prevent that as much as possible, because we pay for every gallon of water that goes through the sewer pipe to be cleaned, so we don't wish to send clean water to Deer Island. And MWRA makes funds available for all the member communities, and we've participated in this program for many years. And as John said, 75% of that amount is going to come in the form of a direct grant that we don't have to pay back. The additional 25% is a 0% loan that we pay back over time, and we just actually, a couple articles ago, we approved the repayment of previous allotments. So we've been getting a lot of work done with these funds.
They're actually in town right now doing some more testing, so if they come knocking on your door, it means they've detected something in your, something.
Inflow.
Inflow.
Any other comments? A motion?
So, second?
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Article 16, PEG Cable Access Enterprise Fund. This is, the enterprise fund was established last January of 18 in order for us to be able to take the money we receive from the cable providers and we deposit it in the enterprise fund, and we're then able to get that money to BCAT to fund their operations. The amount for FY 2020 is $575,000. Has no impact on the tax base because the money comes directly from the cable companies and then is distributed to BCAP.
Is that in jeopardy going forward?
Pardon me?
Is that number in jeopardy?
There's definitely, there's some debate going on on the federal level. The cable companies are trying to get away from providing us with these funds, so we're gonna have to stay tuned on that.
Any other questions? No? Motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Article 17, Water Stabilization Fund. You may remember that we established the Water Stabilization Fund last spring, and then in January, we transferred money into that stabilization fund from additional revenues from the water bills. That was a plan to increase rates over time, capture that money into the stabilization fund so we could fund the project of us hooking up to MWRA. This year's allotment is for $40,800. And in Mr. Sanchez's budget, he has all of his costs and then offsets that by this amount that would be supplementing that.
This is sort of a trial run. 40,000 seems pretty insignificant into the big scope of that project, but we just started doing this, so that's the small amount that we've collected so far. In the future, we're gonna be putting money into the water stabilization fund and taking it out every year to offset the budget. So this is a routine that we're gonna be involved with for a while as that project rolls out over the next 10 years, so.
Great. Any questions on it? Reading none. Motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second motion and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. So it's 4.
Article 20, an established receipts reserved account for ambulance services. Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 5F, allows us to be able to segregate funds from the general fund, and reserve them in a separate fund, and earmark them for appropriation for a specific purpose. So the reason being is now that we're going to be, hopefully at some point, if we do, provide our own ALS service, we would see significant increase in revenues. We would want to be able to capture those revenues in this fund to be able to then appropriate them through town meeting to help offset any additional costs associated with running an ambulance service. So all this article is doing now is establishing the fund, and then we will start at some point, January 1st of 2020, we will start depositing the money into that fund, or accounting for that money in that fund, and expect that at some point in a future town meeting, we would then be appropriating money from that fund to cover something to do with ambulance services, whether it's additional cost for anything related to that.
So what's the cost of this now? Anything? What?
Process now is the ambulance receipts get deposited in general fund revenue.
Okay.
And would close the free cash.
Okay. Any questions?
I do. Is there a dollar amount, or are we just establishing the fund?
Just establishing the fund now.
Anything else? Paul, anything?
No, I just want to add, as John pointed out, it requires town meeting vote to access the funds once they're in there, so.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved in. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0, Betty.
Paul, you want to take EDD?
21?
What was that vote, Mr. Chairman? 4-0?
4-0. Yeah, Bob's not in the room, so.
Economic Development Director, I know we spoke about this at our last strategic planning, so that's is the article to advance that initiative.
There's no number, no dollar amount for this one either, is there?
We had a number built in which would get us through the year between the salary and potential expenses for the office, $85,000.
Any questions on this one?
No questions, Mr. Chairman, but if I may.
Yep.
Like I said, I think that this is a great idea, and I hope that town meeting thinks so as well. I think that, moving forward, the opportunity that we'll have to have this role filled to curate, businesses in town will be crucial. And I'm very excited to see what we can do with this role in the future.
Else? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second, motion made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
500. 22,
I think for Articles 23 through 28, we don't have, we are actively engaged in negotiations with all of our units, our bargaining units. At the current time, we don't have any MOUs in place to,
okay, you just want to move right to 31? Is that where we're going next?
Yep. I don't know if we need to do anything from 23 to 38.
You have to- They're not gonna be, are they gonna be withdrawn?
Well, we're still hopeful that we might have a couple that we may have to present to you on May 13th. But
Do it
we've
that
been
night?
actively engaged with all the groups, so they're aware that there's a time crunch here, and unfortunately, as you guys have seen over the years, typically, the closer the town meeting gets, the better chance, you know, we settle them right up to the day of town meeting, so we're hopeful that we'll be able to give more notice to the committees and stuff, but at some point, the deal, we're running out of time to get them done by this town meeting, but we're hopeful that we may have a couple of these groups have a deal with them, so.
So Article 31 is from the Selectmen, the small cell peer review dollars for $35,000. Funded, we established an account this year through a reserve fund transfer to bridge the gap from now until the end of the year. And this money is an estimate of what we think we may need for next year, to have somebody that reviews the applications when they come in and tells us whether the applications are complete and adequate, that they could move forward through our process. And we are close to signing someone on to be able to start doing that for us. If Selectman Tigas would like to add anything, I only learned that from listening through him anyway, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
As was alluded to earlier, we're gonna see a lot more about small cells. Every town is. As we've been told, we're ahead of the curve by having policies, applications, and design standards in place. When it comes to small cell applications, we have a deadline. It's called a shot clock. The town, from upon receipt of the application, has 10 days to let the applicant know whether the application itself is complete or not. Burlington, like many other towns, don't have RF engineers on staff and a radio frequency engineer, which is someone who has the expertise to review these. So we've been in talks with an RF engineer that would like to retain, who can give us the professional opinion of whether or not these applications are complete, or if they're not, what they're lacking. Because under the FCC rules, we have 10 days. If we don't answer the applicant within 10 days, it's as though it's an automatic approval, basically. No action is an approval, in other words. So we need to have someone contracted that can provide us with the technical expertise that we don't have and many other towns don't have at this point.
And I think what Jim and his committee, and what we're all really, really concerned about is how these things are gonna look on the landscape. So that's one of the big things that we want to be able to properly respond to applicants, so that we'll at least maintain the control of what these installations will look like and make them as pleasing to the eye as possible.
We can't control a lot, but what little we can, we'd like to. So, that's it for me.
That's all you got?
That's all I got.
Anybody? Go ahead.
Question for Jim. So we're going to we hope to retain this one RF engineer. Should this person not be available, are there other RF engineers that we can?
We've had that discussion, we asked them that question, and we do have someone else that we can turn to, but we've also asked this RF engineer the same question, and he has an associate that would be able to assist us, but we're not just gonna put all our eggs in one basket and hire one person. We're gonna make sure we're protected, because people do go on vacation, and are unavailable, and, with the anticipated number of applications we're expecting, we don't know how many or how busy person's gonna be.
Right.
So we aren't just stopping at one, I guess, to answer your question.
Great.
Is it? Oh, yeah. Mike? Anything, Mike?
No, sir.
Bob? Okay, with that being
Whatever
done-
Jimmy says, I'm good with.
What's that?
Whatever Jimmy says, I'm good with.
With that, do
He
I have?
deserves a prize for taking that
He
on.
does. He does. He can have tomorrow night off. Do I
Is there
have a
number to
motion?
this?
35.
35, I'm sorry.
Motion by Mike,
Second.
second by Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
500, Benny. And the 4th of July parade.
Article 32 is the annual appropriation for the 4th of July parade celebration. This year is $20,000 to help offset the cost of the parade and celebration.
Mike, anything?
Just very quickly, we were at the high school, had a little table set up. I want to thank everybody who took the time to come by and visit with us. And we'd just like to add that we've been very busy in the past year. We have gained some new members, Selectmen Priest included. We've got some younger, enthusiastic members on the committee who are doing a wonderful job, and we look forward to another successful 4th of July parade this year.
Michael, is that a good number? Is that a legitimate number, or?
It is, yeah, it's more, I don't want to say it's more than enough. It's enough. We give us a little breathing room for any unexpected. Fortunately, we've been fortunate enough that all of our sponsors have come back year after year. We've got one in particular who we really count on, and they're kind of difficult to pin those folks down, but we do appreciate their efforts.
I don't want you to take a lot of time out of the budget, but just remind people that most of the money to pay for this does come from donations, and you have a fundraising group.
It does, and we're a small group, and we work very hard throughout the year. We do our best to, provide the parade and fireworks to the community. We've got very good numbers along the parade route, and the common is also full as well for the fireworks. So we're trying to do the best we can with the little group we got, and hopefully we'd like to keep it going.
If I could add to that, it's important that, for anyone who's watching or who will watch this, that they understand that while the town does, while the parade does ask for this $20,000 and town meeting typically does approve it, this is not a town-run event. The 4th of July committee runs this event, and it's really run by the people of Burlington. And so I would strongly encourage anybody who is watching, who says to themselves, yeah, we love going to the parade. Well, that's your parade. Every dollar goes the distance. And, with more money, we can do more things. We can bring more people into the parade. We can have, a larger fireworks show. And I know that these are things that people love. And I mean, I take my kids every year with my wife. And I know people, block the day off and they go down for the morning and then they head home for their annual cookout, and it's a great day had by all. Last year we had fantastic, albeit very hot weather, and we hope and pray for those kinds of days. But this parade is literally in the hands of the people, and I encourage every resident of Burlington to, if you can, throw a dollar in the coffer, because with 25,000 residents, a dollar, from every person is $25,000. That would go so far to making the parade even that much better and stronger. And preemptively, I appreciate everything that everyone does do for the parade.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Mike, this is directed to you. Is this 20,000 just for the parade, or is it for the whole day to include the fireworks?
It's a number of things. It's the personnel necessary to run a safe and successful parade. We've got DPW, police, fire, rec people out there during the day. So the portion from the town, for the most part, by and large, helps us pay those costs. And the money we raise pays for the different bands and performances and so forth that we, we're gonna pay those folks to come here. They don't do it out of the goodness of their heart. They have instruments and uniforms and all that jazz, so.
To follow up on that, the reason and actually go back to Bob's point about, is this enough?
Yes.
The fireworks last year were extremely well attended. The common was packed. The most
Yeah,
I've ever seen.
that's a budget buster. This year, we've actually, to save a couple of dollars, we've moved the fireworks event from the night of the 4th to a couple of days ahead of time on a Sunday night, I think, or something like that. As you can imagine, getting the fireworks on the day of the holiday, you're paying a premium. So we were paying something in the
That's what
$12,000 or $14,000 just for the fireworks. So we're going to save money by having it on the weekend ahead. Might be disappointing to some folks, but, yeah, it's a matter of economics.
And do we make a plan that all the selectmen are walking again this year?
You're always invited. You have an open invitation, those of you that can walk still.
Oh, please.
I wasn't looking at you, Bob. No.
Brother.
Right.
Looking at myself, actually, is that what I think of it. That's a long walk in 90-degree weather.
And it has been hot the last couple of years.
Yeah. So we have a motion on the parade.
I'll make that motion, approve it.
Second, Mike, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That was the longest one yet.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to jump in here and just want to call your attention to Article 34. That's a petition from town meeting member Jerry Bouchot, and he was former member of the ISAC committee. So what he's asking the town to do directly through the Board of Selectmen is to assess our cybersecurity. So he was very instrumental in getting the ISAC committee fired up several years ago. They did a lot of great work in looking at our IT infrastructure, and they were very helpful to us in our IT department in encouraging us to enhance our use of various computer systems. So Jerry has submitted this article, and he's asking the board to put together a report by December on the town's cybersecurity. So I know he's already spoken to the IT department. I've spoken to Betty. We're going to reinvigorate the ISAC committee to see how many of those folks are still interested and then advertise for new members. So I don't know if the board wants to take a position on this, but we think it's a good idea. Cybersecurity is a big deal, and our auditors are pointing it out to us. But essentially, this article is going to be asking the board to review our cybersecurity. So I figured, even though we didn't have it bolded here, the board may want to take a position on it as well.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Yes.
I know that the report that ISAC gave us about, 9 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever that was really good reading, and it really pointed out a number of shortfalls in our system and how we could correct it, and we've been continually correcting it ever since. And I think that Jerry and Dan Grattan, who was a member of this board at that time, who chaired that, did a lot of work, and if they're on board that this is a good thing, then I'm going to support their opinion on this to move forward to do an evaluation, because when we hear the horror stories, we might as well know where we stand to protect ourselves from them.
I appreciate your thoughts, Bob, and again, that report that they did was great. It was very useful to us, and we did work hard to implement the various pieces of it. And again, the town is blessed to have a lot of very talented computer software type folks who are interested in this kind of stuff, so it's great to be able to take advantage of that kind of expertise.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, just to follow up before do we have a number on this yet, or is it to be
There's
determined?
There's no dollar amount associated with this. At this point, what he's asking the selectmen is just to review and report back to the town in terms of what we feel the status of our cybersecurity is.
Can we do that without having an expert come in from the outside?
I believe between the ISAC committee and the current IT staff that we should be able to adequately address what Jerry's looking to do with this article.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
They can advise us if we require funding, we can go back for that in September, or we'll be looking for direction from them on that.
Yes, sir.
So the funding was going to be my question, but I also want to echo Mr. Hogan's sentiment that I think that this is extremely important in today's day and age, that we, look for every, cyber digital pitfall possible, knowing how vulnerable one can be in today's day and age. You know, so I wholeheartedly support this as well.
Anybody else?
No, good.
Motion?
Motion to approve.
Second? All those in favor? Aye. 500. Yes.
I'll take the next one, and we're getting to the end. Thank you very much for your patience. I know this is going through a lot of stuff here. The next up is Article 35, and this is, relates back to the presentation that the board voted favorably on to attempt to enter the Green Communities Program, which will provide the town with grant funding for various initiatives moving forward. This is essentially the largest part of the 5 criteria that we still haven't met yet, and it involves the town adopting the Stretch Energy Building Code. Just as a reminder to the board, when the town initially looked at this in 2009, the difference between the regular building code and the stretch building code was a very substantial difference. But over that period of time, every year as they update the code, the building code and the stretch code are almost one at this point. So there's 240 communities in the state that are already participating in Green Communities Program, which means that they've adopted the stretch code already. And we refer to it as stretch code, but it's the Stretch Energy Code. And we'll be asking town meeting to adopt the Stretch Energy Code, and that will be, I believe, the final hurdle for us to apply to become a green community with the state and receive initial grant funding of $173,000 and then be eligible on an annual basis to compete for grants of up to $250,000 a year. And we see an unending amount of investments that we could use with that. Anything energy efficient related, HVAC systems in our buildings, solar. So we really have an unending amount of projects that these grant funds would be useful for. So this is the final step for us. Final major step, shall I say.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Many of our neighboring towns that have already adapted this, they're already over $1 million in grants back to them, just for, going to the green community status.
I think, in fact, some of them, 1.7 million, some of the folks that have been in from the beginning, Arlington, and so this, over time, it really works out to a substantial amount of grant funding available.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Paul, this would be a general bylaw change?
Yes.
Okay. I see that it applies to new residential construction, new commercial construction of a certain size, and new commercial condition spaces like labs and supermarkets over a certain size. Do municipal buildings not fall into that at all? Like if we were to build a new police station or, what we have to?
When we looked into it, we had spoke to Mr. Clancy at the time, and he assured us that almost all new commercial construction, they were already building to this standard. I believe that would be a part of any of our municipal building projects as well, to make them as energy efficient as possible. It just makes sense for us to do it whether we're required to or not. So
Sure.
I don't know if it specifically applies to municipal buildings. That's actually a great question, but I can say that we would be looking for every opportunity to build to that code for town buildings as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I think this is great.
Thank you.
This is the article, didn't we have a group come in here one night and we went through all
Yes,
this,
it was
right?
a very long,
It was very, very long.
we had about 150 slides.
Yes, okay.
I think we asked them
I
to
think
get
it's
to
all
the
coming,
point.
I think the sweat's coming back now, I remember this, yes.
It's really a very good program, and
Yeah.
again, the stretch code may sound intimidating, but there's already 240 communities in the state that have already adopted it and participated in this program, including all of our neighbors except for maybe Wilmington at this point.
Did Conservation bring this in? Was that the one
No,
Conservation brought in?
Public Works deals and manages the town's energy on a global basis. So the state's been pursuing us as a member for quite some time now. So this was brought to us by Rachel Kaplan over at Public Works Department.
All right, awesome.
What conservation brought us was the Community Preservation Act.
That's the one, okay. Thank you, Bob. Well, with that being said, any motions?
I move that we approve warrant article number 35, adopting the Stretch Energy Code.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
500.
Okay, the next one, Article 36, is just to amend the general bylaws for the results of the ballot question at the past election, so.
Anybody, anything on this?
No, as I mentioned the other night, this is just moving some wording around in the bylaw. It doesn't cost anything, it doesn't do anything other than put the treasurer collector in an appointed position and take it out of the elected.
Do I have a motion?
So made.
Second.
Motion is second, and all those in favor? Got one left?
All right, small cell for one last time. This is an update to the zoning bylaws related to the small cell work that Jim and his committee have been working on. So that's about the extent to what I know about it. It's a zoning bylaw, and it is part of the protections that we're trying to build into our small cell policy to protect the town for those items that we're allowed to protect ourselves on.
I think,
It's a small cell.
How many pages is
I
that?
think we've already talked a lot about this program right now, so I don't know how there could be any more questions to be asked on this, but I'll put it out there. Are there any questions on this?
I have no question.
Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you. I'd like to thank Mr. Denizio for his time involved in this, as he already ran away from the TV cameras at the back already. Don't worry, he's back there, everybody. Okay, let's go right to approve the minutes on February 25th.
If there's no questions, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, have a second.
Second.
So moved. All those in favor?
Aye. Abstain.
401.
Betty, does the executive session doesn't go in there, does that go separately?
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet, okay.
So some things open in.
Okay, well, we just did the subcommittees over, so we'll start with that. We'll start, Mr. Priest, do you have anything for subcommittees?
Not at this time.
I went there first. I'm going to get through this quick. Michael?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This coming Saturday, Selectmen Tiggers and I will be at the Eagle Scout Ceremony Awards at, I believe it's Marshall Simons Middle School. We have 3 Burlington residents, Lucas McCarthy, Nicholas Latsis, and Cameron Hudson will all be receiving the Eagle Scout Award. The Eagle Scout Award is the highest rank attainable, during the course of their time with the Scouts, they, they earn over 20 merit badges to achieve that rank. Only 4% of all Scouts worldwide ever reach this plateau of Eagle Scout. And it seems to me that we've just been eclipsing that mark
Burlington.
every year, Bob, and I've been to a few. I don't know if some of you other guys, Paul may have been to a few. I mean, they're pumping out 3, 4, 5, 6 Eagle Scouts a year here in Burlington. It's remarkable, and I think it's certainly a testament to the Scouts as well as the leadership here in Burlington of that program. So I am looking forward to being there on Saturday and meeting these 3 young men. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. If I'm going to jump in real quick, if I remember correctly, one of our members on the planning board that just got elected, Mike Espejo, he was an Eagle Scout.
Yes, he is.
So, he is, right? He did, yeah. So, a little shout out to him there. Jimmy?
I do have a couple of new subcommittees which I don't have reports on, but the audit committee, which I'm still on, We did meet April 9th. We pretty much finished our wrap-up for this year, so to speak, and we'll be looking toward next year. The audit committee will, again, meet, what did we say? Was it the fall, or we say late summer?
I think the audit committee is going to start in the fall. Jim, just to point out, Mr. Powers still has to come back and address the board for one final report to the town. So you guys, the preliminary to the big show when he comes here to talk about last year's results with the board, so.
So, believe it or not, they are actually interesting meetings, so I didn't know what to expect, but I'm actually very glad to be on that committee.
All set?
I'm good.
Robert?
One thing, it's a couple of weeks off, and I hope people will pay attention as we get closer and remember, the letter carrier's food drive is going to be Saturday, May 11th, and the donations go to the local pantry for people helping people. It's a great cause. Put your non-perishable donation in a bag by your mailbox, and the mailmen or women will pick it up when they make their deliveries that day, and then it will go to people helping people. So again, Saturday, May 11th, 2009. I don't know when everybody's mailman shows up, but make sure the bag is out there in plenty of time for them to pick it up, and the folks at People Helping People would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman's report, because I'm new, I don't have a report this month, and I will work on that for next month. So we'll go right to the town administrator.
The only thing I have for you, Mr. Chairman, is we've invited Town Council Lisa Mead to come out and address the board, just to sort of walk us through the mechanics of the ballot question and what are the options for the board to proceed at this point. And we hope to have her out at the meeting on May 13th to discuss that with the board.
Fantastic. Old business? Anybody? No? New business? Any citizens out there? I see none at all, so I think that's a pass. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Second by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. What's that?